Hello everyone and welcome to the Legends Library. Today it is Cade by myself, and basically what I'll be doing today is not necessarily a remake, but doing a much shorter, a bit more abridged version of our very first video that went up on Legends Library, which was Tristan and I answering our questions to the Star Wars Questionnaire. And I still really like that video. The bouncing back and forth of ideas and topics off of each other was very fun, so of course that video will stay up. But stick around, guys, and see my answers to this solo.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I'm a Jedi, like my father before me.
Alright, so jumping right in, we have question number 1, Jedi or Sith? In general, I think I would be a Jedi because I'm not super selfish like a Sith is. I'm not worried about my own power like a Sith is. And I think that striving to help the galaxy rather than myself is just, it's a bit more of a noble cause, and I think more kind of in keeping with who I am as a person. Plus, I won't end up getting all, crusty ass looking like, Darth Sidious or anyone. And going on from that, we have the next question, which is, what are your favorite worlds? I really love Dantooine for like its nice, peaceful kind of plains, planet vibes. I really like Naboo because it's kind of got a little bit more of a varied terrain to it. Like there's lakes, there's rivers, there's forests, there's the nice cities and everything is kind of just like very picturesque. I guess that would be very nice. It also seems like it doesn't get too hot or too cold, so that would be really nice. Kind of a nice, middle ground. You're not going to be freezing and you're not going to be sweltering out in the sun. I also really like Korriban. I would never want to like live there or anything, but I think to visit there and, go on like an archaeological study through the tombs of the ancient Sith Lords and everything, I think would be really cool. Presumably, as long as I don't get destroyed and crushed or blown up or stabbed by any booby traps or anything. Just the whole history of the Sith, I think, is very interesting, and Korriban obviously is a big focal point of that all the way from their start, all the way, going on way thousands of years into the future. And next up is probably my favorite question, honestly, off of the questionnaire, and that is, what type of lightsaber, what lightsaber color, and what lightsaber fighting style would you use if you were in Star Wars? Obviously, if I was a Force user, I would like to use a green saber staff just because I just think they're really cool. And so Rule of Cool does have a bit of impact on my choice. But I just think the saber staff, like they're in the way that, they can kind of catch people off guard, the way you can immediately follow up attacks and everything. And defensively, I think they can also be used very well, obviously, because you can, block, two different directions. And as long as you don't, like, horizontally swing backwards and bisect yourself, then, again, they're still also very cool. And as far as fighting style, I would pick Form 5 just like in its entirety, with Degem So obviously serving perfectly for any kind of lightsaber wielding opponents I would run into, because I like the strength orientated style of it. Like I could finally put my hours put into the gym to use in, beating a Sith down with my saber staff. And then on the inverse, for defense, I would say, again, just Form 5. Xi'an, I think it's very good for blast deflection, and I like the whole reflecting blaster bolts back at assailants. I think is also very cool. And of course, I wouldn't be opposed to like adding bits of Nyman in as well, being able to chain in force attacks and everything, force pushes, force pulls, and probably a bit of acrobatics in there as well, just for like a bit more of a well-rounded fighting style. And onward we go to the next question of favorite species. I really love the Yuuzhan Vong. They're definitely my favorite species overall. Just their design, I think, when it's done well, is done very well. Their characterization, I think, is also very, very interesting, especially with them being outside of the Force and everything and having their own pantheon of gods that they answer to. I would definitely say they're my favorite non-human species from Star Wars, but in general, there aren't a lot that I really don't like. In general, Star Wars tends to have such a great design for all its aliens and everything that, you can't go wrong with whatever one you pick. And keeping on the theme of favorites, favorite vehicle is the next question, and mine is, it's the Executor Star Destroyer. Like, it's so cool. It's just a massive Star Destroyer, tons of weapons. The design I think is just really cool, and it's super intimidating. Like when you see it flying over other Star Destroyers and it like eclipses them, yeah, it's just really cool, And as far as picking your favorite vehicle, you kind of got to go with rule of cool. And in my opinion, it doesn't get any cooler than like the Executor class Star Destroyer. And to the next question, which is, which Jedi Master would I want if I was a Jedi? Very simple for me. I would like Kyle Katarn as my master. I think the new Jedi Order, just in general, is a bit more flexible than the previous iterations of it. And Kyle Katarn, I just feel like he's a very informal master. He doesn't want titles or anything. He doesn't wear his robe, so he's like the cool history teacher at school. And just his whole views on the Force, how powers themselves aren't good or bad, it's how you use them. But obviously, he's not like a believer in like the Patenium theory, but it's more just that the powers themselves are tools, which I think is very useful because obviously lots of powers are going to have different applications, and especially when it comes to combat, that can really give you an edge. So just in general, with him being the battle master of the new Jedi Order and just being a very like talented duelist who would be able to pass that on to me, that'd be pretty cool as well. And then we get to the inverse of that question, which is what Sith Master would I want? And I would want Darth Krayt to be my Sith Master. Hopefully, I would not get lost in the ranks and the files of the one Sith, and I would be serving under him kind of more directly. But in general, I think just like his power in the Force is just really cool. He has a cool move set, I guess. He knows how to use dark transfer and how to keep himself alive. He knows essence transfer, so if he could pass those on the things on to me and I could become immortal, also very cool. Plus, like Kyle Katarn, he's also a very talented lightsaber duelist. So, with those two kind of things, it's kind of a similar reason that I picked Kyle Katarn, except it's definitely with Darth Krayt. It comes down to I just really like his character, and I think he's just really cool as well. So that's something you got to consider, I think, when you're picking a Jedi Master or a Sith Master as well. And in keeping with Sith, the next question is, what would your Darth name be? And I had to toy around for a long time, like I stated in the original video, and try and find something that was cool, not used, and all of that. And I ended up coming up with Darth Valtus. Valtus meaning authority in Finnish. And I think that just keeps very well with my whole thing of, if Darth Krayt was my master and I was in the rule of two, his main thing is imposing his will and authority on the galaxy. So I think that would just be a really good fit in general for it. And it just sounds cool. So like picking your favorite vehicle, picking your Sith name, you kind of just got to go with rule of cool. And now to get off the subject of Sith and onto the subject of what is your favorite movie. My favorite is Return of the Jedi. It has been ever since I was a little kid, just like I can ignore some of the hammier, cheesier acting and some of the kind of meh parts. Just with the whole arc of Luke, going from, getting captured on Tatooine and everything, to redeeming his father, I think is just such a good arc. And obviously it ties together the original trilogy, I think, very, very well. As well as just the scenes with Vader, Palpatine, and Luke on the second Death Star are just, in my opinion, the best in the series. And obviously, for that reason, that's why it's my favorite movie. And from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, it is next question, what is your least favorite movie? And mine is, not a very controversial opinion. Mine is The Last Jedi. It kind of, in my opinion, it gets Luke's character wrong. It gets his actions wrong. It kind of sets stuff up that obviously isn't carried on into the next movie. And kind of puts an end to stuff that was kind of set up in the previous movie. As to, Snoke, Rey, well, the whole Rey thing I didn't really care about, but Snoke being kind of just misused and all that, and just in general, I think it's kind of a very boring plotting story as well. So The Last Jedi is definitely my least favorite Star Wars movie. Next up, on from the topic of movies, on to the topic of novels, and what Star Wars novel would you write if you could write a Star Wars novel? I would write a novel about the Jedi Order recovering post first Jedi Purge that happened in between Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2 that was overseen by the Sith Triumvirate. It would just be very interesting to write about the exile and Krea's influences kind of living on in a way in the Jedi Order as it's rebuilding itself. And as well, we just don't have an explanation how they get from there to, being recovered. So I think it would just be a very interesting story to tell. what film has my favorite soundtrack? Definitely Return of the Jedi. Um, Again, kind of keeping with it, and just a lot of the more subtle stuff and a lot of the quieter stuff I think is very, very nice, as well as like the suspenseful music and all of that, and kind of then from there to the big bombastic music that happens all on Jabba's barge and everything. I think it just encapsulates Star Wars so well in what it does with the soundtrack. And then it also has my favorite piece of Star Wars music, which is Jedi Fury, from when Luke rages on Vader during their lightsaber duel after he threatens Leia. It's just such a perfect outpouring of emotion, and it all just meshes up so well. And that's why Return of the Jedi has my favorite soundtrack. Do I collect figures is the next question, and the answer is yeah, I have a tiny little collection. I have them command stripped up to my wall. I have two Black Series. I have Darth Nihilus, Jaina Solo, and then I have a old Kenner Expanded Universe Dark Empire Luke Skywalker that I got off Amazon a couple of years back. So I have a small little collection, but mostly my collection would probably be my novels. I have a lot of the Expanded Universe comics as well on Kindle, and I have some Ultra Sabers. They're like high quality dueling lightsabers as well. So I have a collection, but not specifically figures. Next up is, in my opinion, what is the best thing about the EU? It's kind of been said a lot, but I'm going to kind of obviously echo what other people have said, but just the sheer scale and continuity that was kept within the expanded universe, I think is just so cool that in, over 100 novels, 100 plus comic books, short stories, video games, it all like ties together. It's all a very well-knit continuity. And yeah, there are continuity errors. There are continuity errors in tons of stuff. And so just to point those out as a reason why the EU was bad, I think is very unwarranted, because the ones that they do have are usually pretty minor and end up getting fixed or retconned around a little bit to like fit. So I think overall just the continuity and the grand scale of everything I think is the best part of the expanded universe. And from there, we go to my least favorite thing about the expanded universe. And mine, very simply, is that in the expanded universe, mostly during the prequel and all the way up to the post Return of the Jedi, I think they had a bit too much of a reliance on the main cast. So in the prequels, obviously, that would be Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda, etc. And then in post Return of the Jedi, it's Han, Luke, Leia, the big three. They kind of straight away, especially post Return of the Jedi, from doing stories that completely excluded those three. Usually there's one of them or two of them, and it just would have been nice to see a lot of other characters get the spotlight, because the EU had made so many great characters. And of course there are, awesome stories like that are from other characters' points of view and that do explore other characters, but I just wish we could have gotten more while we had it. And then the final question: what does Star Wars mean to you? Well, pretty simply, I think that Star Wars, to me, has always been kind of my first passion. And what I mean by that, it's the first thing that I ever remember like getting into as a series, not just as, a movie here, a movie there, but the first thing that I ever really got into that like encompassed, all this stuff: video games, comic books, movies. And it's the first thing that I ever read that had lore that made me want to explore the universe even more. And from there, obviously, it's been just like a big part of my life. And just, it's probably my favorite franchise overall. A lot of my friends and I were all big Star Wars fans. So, I've had 2-hour conversations out at the bar with some of my buddies, just talking about Empire at War, or the movies, or the books, or the video games. And I also love Star Wars Armada, the tabletop game. I play that with my friends. Some of my friends play Legion, so we get in on that. Some of my friends play X-Wing. So, it's just a big thing, and it's big just, not like a huge chunk of my life, but like it's one of the first things I can really, as a child, remember getting onto. And obviously now as a 25-year-old man, it's kind of, just something, and one of the few things that stuck with me my kind of whole life like that. I would probably say the two things really are baseball and Star Wars are the two things that I've really, ever since I was a kid, really liked. So That's the list. That's my answers. Went a little bit longer than Keith's, I think by about 5 minutes, but I can drone on and talk about Star Wars all day. So, with that, guys, if you've been enjoying the content that we've been putting out, or you would like to see more of our content, check out our channel, give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow right now, so all of that really helps out. So, with that, this has been Cade from the Legends Library, signing off.